Okay, folks, I'd like to call this meeting to order. This evening we have three agendas we're going to be following. The first agenda is a special meeting of council that will be dealing with an application for zoning bylaw amendment, Department of Planning and Development Services, report number 2014-36, and the subject is a public meeting report for a zoning bylaw amendment, file number D1406-14. Members of council, you do have the package outlined in your agenda, and I'm sure you'll follow as the meeting progresses. The second meeting this evening is the Committee of the Whole meeting, and that will be also contained within your agenda. And then following that, of course, is our council meeting. So with that, we'll start off with a prayer from Councillor Angie Desmarais, and that'll be followed by the national anthem by Mr. Joe Longfellow. Councillor Desmarais.
Heavenly Father, source of all truth and wisdom, who knows and loves the whole creation, continue to watch over our community, that truth may prevail over distortion, wisdom triumph over recklessness, and the concerns of every person be heard. Amen.
Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all thy sons command. Car ton bras se porte l'épée, il se porte la croix. Ton histoire est une épopée de plus brillant exploit. God keep our land glorious and free. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Thank you, Joel. Well done.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
And Mr. Heil, that was one powerful Canada.
It was?
It was. You must be practicing. Operatic Society.
I'm practicing for the
Operatic Society. You can tell.
And I told Joel I was going to sing with him today.
You did. You kept up, and that was powerful. Thank you, folks. With that, Madam Clerk, are there any addendums to tonight's agenda?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. None this evening.
Confirmation of the agenda, please. Motion. Councillor Kenny, Councillor Butters. Are there any questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Disclosures of interest. Are there any disclosures this evening? With none, we'll move on to the public hearing. Oh, Shannon, you're back. Welcome back, Shannon.
Thank you.
If you just want to press the gray button, and you are live.
Sorry, cough drop.
The purpose of this meeting tonight is pursuant to Section 34 of the Planning Act, and it's to consider an application to amend the City of Port Colborne zoning bylaw 1150/97/81 as amended. The application has been submitted by P. Lee White on behalf of Niagara Peninsula Housing Corp. The zoning is proposed to be changed from R4-353 Street Townhouse Dwelling to R4-353 Street and Block Townhouses. This amendment will add block townhouses as a permitted use for the property. The proposed zoning change will also allow a minimum lot area of 1,191 square meters, a minimum front yard of 5.5 meters, and a minimum rear yard of 1.7 meters. Council is familiar with this property as it was previously part of the Humberstone Shoe Park and was declared surplus, and Council considered at that time applications for official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment, which added a number of residential uses to be permitted on the property. For this application, notice of public meeting was administered in accordance with Section 34, subsections 12, 13, and 14 of the Planning Act as amended, and Section 3 of Ontario Regulation 545/06. The notice of public meeting was mailed to property owners within 120 meters of the property. 2 public notice signs were posted, and a notice was also posted on the city's website on or before May 6th of this year. As of today, the following comments have been received from members of the public. From Erica Retty of 88 Neff Street. She is concerned about the management and upkeep of the property. the nature of the development, and garbage, recycling, and fencing on the property. From Frank Danch, he is concerned that the lot is too small for what is proposed. 8 units with 2 people per unit is too much on that property, in his opinion. The cars parked in the front and 8 cars could be very tight. From agencies, the following comments have been received. From the building division, they identify that there will be a number of building code issues that can be dealt with at the building permit stage. From the bylaw enforcement and fire and emergency services, there are no concerns. From engineering, the proposed parking area along Erie Street cannot be supported by the engineering department at this time. It creates an unsafe condition of vehicles backing out onto the street. Adequate sightlines at the intersection of George Street and Erie Street will also need to be maintained. Servicing review will need to be completed, stormwater management and detention studies, and further review will be completed during the site plan application process. The procedure to be followed this evening will be to present the report, to hear any comments from the applicant, to receive clarification or questions of clarification from council to the applicant or myself, to open the meeting to the public for comments and questions, to announce the requirements under the Planning Act for written notice of passage of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment, and a brief explanation of future meetings about this application. At this time, I would like to present the report. As discussed earlier, the proposal is to change the zoning to allow block townhouses in addition to the other uses that are already permitted on this site. The proposal is 8 block townhouses right now. The draft zoning bylaw amendment is attached to the planning report as Appendix A for council's information. Schedule A to the City of Port Colborne official plan designates the property as urban residential. Land uses in the urban residential designation include residential, neighborhood commercial, and community facilities and institutional uses. The zoning bylaw right now zones the property R4-353 street townhouse dwelling, and it permits everything in the R4 zone as well as street townhouse dwellings, and the zone requirements for the residential townhouse zone apply. The R4 zone, it should be noted, right now permits boarding houses, converted dwellings, a single detached dwelling per lot, semi-detached dwellings, duplex dwellings, semi-detached duplex dwellings, triplexes, apartment dwellings, and accessory buildings and structures. Adjacent lands to the north and west are Zone P, Public and Park, and contain the Humberstone Shoe Park. Lands to the north, east, and south are zoned R2 and R3 and contain residential dwellings. And to the south, the land is zoned institutional and contains a church. This now concludes the presentation of the planning report. The zoning bylaw amendment will permit the use of the property for 8 block townhouse units. The planning division will provide council with its recommendation at a future meeting for its consideration. At this time, Mr. Mayor, I would like to invite the applicant to comment.
Thank you, Ms. LaRocque. Sir, if you want to come on up. Welcome.
Thank you. My name's Lee White of PLW Planning and Environmental Consulting, representing the applicant. The applicant is Niagara Peninsula Housing Corporation, which is a local family-owned business, and have their president, Jeff Andrews, who's a second generation to John Andrews, who's also with us, and have also had the pleasure of working with his 2 sons, who will also be involved in the development of the project. So they are a local family-owned business and develop the property and intend to operate and maintain it as rental units. So they will be involved and have a vested interest in maintaining a quality product. They're also interested in doing other projects in the city of Port Colborne, including a 24-unit project at 57 Minto that's been before council in the past, is my understanding. Okay. How do we move forward? Where's the mouse?
Just use the mouse.
You want to advance it one screen for me, please? Thanks. This is the site vicinity right here. Thanks. It's just outside the CIP area, and you're familiar with the property. Okay. Very good. Thanks. There are multiple dwelling units in the near vicinity of this at the corners of Neff and Elm, as well as Neff and King Street. The other uses being the church to the south and the park to the west, and single-family residential to the north and to the east. It's on a short block of Erie Street with a stop sign at the corner of George, and it terminating at Frank's home at the hardware store on the north end, on the back end of that facility. So there's not a lot of traffic on this street. There's 3 or 4 driveways on this section of the street. Engineering did bring up the issue of possibly being an issue of safety for backing onto the street. I don't believe that it is a significant issue, but we do have options for moving the parking onto the west side of the property and have a travel lane, so we could accommodate the necessary amount of parking on the property. But basically it would lose some green space, so it's a trade-off that will have to be given consideration during the site plan approval process. This is the property right here, just an aerial of it. It is currently vacant. All of the buildings have been removed from the property. And this is the proposed development as it sits right now, with north being to the right side of the screen. The building with the hash marks there, 4 units proposed. They would be stacked townhomes. The interesting part about this is that a very similar development could occur without a rezone at all, and I have proposed this to the applicant because apartment buildings are a permitted use within this district. So technically we wouldn't necessarily have to be here. The applicant has chosen to spend the additional fee for the rezone to provide the city with a better product, really. The block townhome development, the only thing differentiating this from an apartment dwelling is a dwelling would have a common shared entrance and a hallway inside toward the units on the inside of the building. The block townhomes have a separate entrance for each of the units. That's the only difference between this and an apartment building, and the apartment building would be permitted as of right. And that's basically what this alludes to here, is we've got a site-specific designation. We're proposing to leave it as a site-specific designation, the same one, and adding 1 permitted use to permit the block townhomes to facilitate a higher quality product. And this is just sort of an architectural rendering of what is proposed. You can see each of the individual entrances to the units. So it's basically more like a street townhome than an apartment building would be. The applicant has retained an architect and is currently doing renderings for the proposed building, but this is just a concept for a similar building that's been used in the past. And that's basically it. I open to questions.
Members of council, any questions of the applicant? Councillor Kenny.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, I just wanted to ask the applicant who's speaking. I thought when the planner spoke, she mentioned that there was only going to be a 1.7 meter green space in the rear. So that's what, three and a half, a little bit more than 3.5 feet, right? So if you're now changing it for safety reasons, say you decide you're going to put a driveway at the back for parking or whatever, that will leave no green space, right?
Nope.
No?
I'll show you.
Okay.
If we could
That's
pull
all-
that site
that's what I'd
plan
like
back
to
up.
I like the picture, by the way. I hope it looks like that.
Yep. Okay.
And just if you could just show me, that would be great.
Yeah, this one right here.
Okay.
This is sort of your pinch point right here. That's 1.7 meters.
Oh, okay.
5 feet or so. If we were to relocate all of this parking to that west property line over
Right,
there,
right.
have an entrance off of George here, this building would get slid this way toward
Okay.
Erie, so you'd actually have a larger backyard.
Perfect. Okay.
Because this being the front on
Sure.
George here.
Right. Okay. That's great. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any further questions, members of council? Councillor Danch?
I gotta say something, this is my backyard, and these are a lot of my neighbors. I like the design. I hope it would end up like that and not a vinyl siding special, which sometimes occurs. And I just kind of wonder, like, what type of, like, can I ask, rental-wise, these units are worth $600 a month, $700 a month? Like, we're gonna look at what type of a market is what I'm asking.
The business model of the applicant is to provide high-quality, affordable housing, and the typical rents are at 80% of the municipal average. So despite the fact that it's going to be affordable housing and there is a demand for that, it will be high quality. You've got 3 generations of the family here who take pride in their work, and they will maintain a quality product.
Councillor?
That's fine.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Members of council, any further questions or comments? With none, sir, thank you.
Thank you.
Shannon, you're back up. We're going to be looking for some oral presentations and/or questions by the public.
Are there any questions of clarification for myself first?
Members of council, any questions or comments further? Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Mayor. Through to Shannon. With the apartments that are zoned applicable right now, what's the density and how many units in apartment building could you build on this lot right now?
Shannon.
I would have to consult the zoning bylaw and the lot area to determine that, but I could get back to you on that
Thank you.
and include it in the next report to council.
Thank you, Councillor. Any further comments or questions, clarification from staff? Councillor Elliott.
Over clarification, I guess, through you, Mayor, to engineering, the comment that it's unsafe to back the cars out onto Neff Street, or on Erie Street, sorry. I guess there's a traffic study that's done that shows that there's too much traffic going down the street, and that's what makes it dangerous to back out.
Mr. Lee.
Through Mr. Mayor to Councillor Elliott. No, it hasn't to do with the traffic volume specifically, but sight lines to the intersections, and then obviously the traffic volume to a point, but not it's not a highway is what I'm getting at.
Councillor.
That's what I supposed. I live on Clarence Street, and the traffic volume on Clarence coming off of Rosemount between Rosemount and Steele is probably a heck of a lot more than what's going to be on this street. That's why I couldn't understand. Were you looking for something like the proponent was talking about, push the building forward, put a parking lot in behind so that there's only one egress and ingress?
Mr. Lee.
Through Mr. Mayor, yes, that would be a much better situation.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor. Further questions? Comments? Ms. LaRock, back to you.
Before opening the meeting to the public, I would like to read the following. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the City of Port Colborne before the proposed zoning bylaw amendment is approved, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of the City of Port Colborne to the Ontario Municipal Board. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the City of Port Colborne before the proposed zoning bylaw amendment is approved, person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the Ontario Municipal Board unless, in the opinion of the board, there are reasonable grounds to add the person or public body as a party. Any interested members of the public, if I might draw your attention to the table in the back room there is a sign-up sheet to sign in and request any future notices of this application. At this time, Mr. Mayor, I would like to invite any members of the public who wish to speak to the application to do so.
Thank you, Shannon. Members of the gallery, are there any members of the public that would like to speak? Questions, comments? If so, you're more than welcome to come on up, state your name, your address, and proceed with anything you want to ask or state. If you want to come on up here, and if you just want to state your name and your address, and the floor is yours, sir. Welcome.
Cool. My name's Calvin Young. I live at 78 Neff Street on the corner right adjacent to the lot where this building is proposed to go. One point I would like to make is there's far more traffic on that street than you think there is. It's in between Elm Street and King Street. There is a light at each corner on Main Street, and there's a lot of traffic that bypasses those lights. And it's steady all day traffic around that block. It may not look like it, but it is a busy area.
Okay.
So that's one consideration for your parking lot you're backing out onto the street, there is a fair bit of traffic down there.
Great.
Pedestrian, bicycles, everything. So just be aware of that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Much appreciated. Are there any further comments or questions from members of the public? Ma'am, come on up. Don't be shy, folks. You just want to state your name and your address, please?
I'm Erica Rati. I live next door to the gentleman who just spoke at 88 Neff, and I'm the one who wrote a letter having many concerns, some of which Shannon had mentioned. I think that the development is too big for that area, too many people for single housing, which is all around it, and it is a busy street. Both are, Neff Street and Erie Street. So I am concerned as well with children. There are a lot of children in the neighborhood who go to the park. Used to come to this park, now they go to the other play park. And also I think the look of the property, if it is built, would be better with not a parking in the front, the parking being at the back, and perhaps some nice landscaping or something else on the street front.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for your time. Are there any further comments, questions? Sir, come on up. Welcome.
Just push the button.
Oh, it's already done.
Oh, it's already on.
Good to
Okay.
go.
Mayor and councilors, my name is Rick LaPlante. I live on 33 George Street. So from that unit looking at it, your view is that house on the corner, and then I'm the one in the middle, and then I have Mr. Schisler, who's on the corner of King and George. That is a busy street because there is a business on the corner that sells ice, and I'll tell you, during the 444 Derby, I mean, that street is covered with vehicles and boats and everything else. Hey, sometimes me and my wife have a heck of a time even getting out of our driveway. But anyways, first of all, to tell you, I don't mind your unit. I still think it's fairly large for the size of the property. I really do. I would have preferred 2 housing units instead of these townhouses. There is, I just find it's going to crowd the space. We've lived there since 1978. I mean, that area has not changed much. I like the idea that it was the park, the whole park at one time. My kids used to play in the one side of it, which now they tore the fence down, and they made it more like a public park. The church, it holds events, it has weddings, it has other things, so it usually gets busy with the parking along George Street. I'm not for development or against it. I really do feel that you should probably rethink the size of this unit before you even attempt to try to build on it. I think that's about what I need to say.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
LaPlante. Thank you. Further questions? Ma'am, come on up. So you guys were all shy at first, weren't you? Welcome.
Hi. I'm Vivian Eggleton. I live on 85 Neff Street, kind of across from it. At one point, you were talking about this, and you said, at this time. Does that mean in the future you could build more buildings on this property?
Shannon, if you want to respond? Shannon, why don't you come down over here?
Yep.
The person right here.
Because I think it's too small of a place, too, to put that building. And when you say at this time, my grandkids, they go over and use the park all the time. How is this going to be affected? Is that going to move the park, or is it going to be right up close to the fence for the back of this building?
Just to clarify, are you referring to her comment with respect to the current zoning, and they can build a certain amount on the current zoning, but the rezoning is for a larger? Is that what you're referring to?
Well, when she was reading it before, she said at this time, and I'm saying, okay, at this time. Does that mean they can amend and build more buildings there?
Shannon?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the presenter. I believe that what I was saying when I said this time, I was talking about what's permitted under the current zoning. Right now, it does permit apartment buildings, street townhouses, and a number of other smaller residential uses. And what they've applied for right now is to permit block townhouses in addition to that. If there is an application in the future for additional housing that doesn't fall within the current zoning requirements, then there would be another public process taking place like you see tonight, and you would have an opportunity to comment.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Shannon. Are there any further comments or questions? I'll go back to you in a second, Frank. With no further questions or comments from members of the public? Okay, members of council, I'm going to open it up to you again because I see Councillor Danch has a question. Any further questions or comments? Councillor Danch.
And I like the design, and I'm not opposed to construction because that's pretty much how I've made my living, and my parents fed me when I was younger. But I've got to echo some of Rick's and Vivian's ideas. There are 8 units on that property. It's not that big. I know exactly where you are, of course, and we all do as well. But possibly maybe a 6-unit would be a little bit more suitable for that size of a lot. But you know, we're here to voice our opinions, and that's mine. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Shannon, back to you.
If you wish to be notified of the approval of the zoning bylaw amendment, you must make a written request to the clerk. Only those persons and public bodies that give the clerk a written request for the notice of the passing of a bylaw will be given notice. And again, the sign-in sheet is on the back table, and that will ensure that you get a written notice. This concludes the public hearing under the Planning Act. The proposed zoning bylaw amendment will be on council's agenda at a future meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Shannon. Well done. And once again, welcome back. Shannon, for your information, folks, has been away on maternity leave for the last year. So, becoming a mother, and how's everything going? All right?
It's going well.
Yeah.
Today's her first birthday.
Pardon me?
Yeah.
Today's her first birthday. Oh, good, good. So, is she sleeping yet?
She has been sleeping since 5 weeks old.
Oh, no kidding.
I'm very lucky.
Yes, you are.
It's been a good year.
Good. Good. Welcome back. It's great to have you back.
The husband's been the issue.
Yeah.
He works for us too.
Okay, folks, can I have a motion to adjourn this portion of tonight's agenda? Councillor Butters, Councillor Bodner, are there any questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Thank you, members. We're now going to move on to the second portion of tonight's agenda, which is the Committee of the Whole meeting. Madam Clerk, are there any addendum items?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. None this evening.
Members of Council, if I can get a motion to confirm the agenda, please. I have Councillor Doucette, Councillor Elliott. Are there any questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Disclosures of interest? Are there any disclosures of interest? None. That's a first. With none, we'll move on to determination of items requiring separate discussion. Members, Councillor Doucette.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Number 8.
Further items? Councillor Elliott.
Item 2.
Further items? Councillor Steele.
Thank you, Worship. Item number 11, please.
Further items? With none, if I can have someone lift item 1 as well, please. And if I can prompt or give Harry a heads up, I'd like to get some background on that. So members of the public, not right now, but when we get to it, members of the public are fully aware of what's happening on Canada Day versus what has happened in the past years. Okay? With no further items, members, we're going to now move on to the approval of the remainder of the agenda. Councillor Bodner, seconder. Councillor Kenny, questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. We're now going to move on to presentations, and with us today we have Joanne Ferraccioli, who is our Health Services Coordinator, and Joanne is with us today to introduce the University of Ottawa medical students that we are blessed with this week. Ms. Ferraccioli?
Good evening, Mayor Badaway, members of council, staff, and gallery. It's a great pleasure once again. It's a year already since the last Rural Medicine Week. I don't know how that happens. Once again, we were very fortunate to host 4 medical students from the University of Ottawa. We have Agnes, Mariam, Tiffany and Fan. And we're also very pleased tonight to have Sophie Gravel from the Rural Ontario Medicine Program. So she's come all the way from Collingwood to see the students here in Port Colborne, and we've had a wonderful couple of days already, and we're here all week. They have a wonderful combination of academic learning, clinical placement, and getting to know the community. We have a lot of fun events planned, and already I think they're falling in love with Port Colborne. But I think it's more important. Mayor Badaway at last evening's dinner challenged them all to say a few words, and we all know how much I love to speak. Yeah. So I'm going to have them take it away. But before I do that, I'd also like to wish Miriam a very, very happy birthday tomorrow. To spend her birthday here in Port Colborne is very special. So happy birthday, Miriam.
Right.
Take it away, Dan.
So hi, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. Thank you so much for having me here today. It's my pleasure. I just want to say that, as a medical student, we are extremely privileged to have all kinds of opportunities to be engaged in different kinds of activities. And for me, global health has always been an area of interest. So, for example, I've worked in Uganda in the largest hospital, implementing low-cost incubators, or working in India, working with the the local health centers and stuff like that. But I just want to say that global health is not defined by going overseas. Global health means that as a global citizen, we have to address all kinds of healthcare problems, not only overseas, as well as it's important to address them in Canada. So by coming to Port Colborne and being able to see the challenges here and learn about the challenges, I think it's important for me as a medical student in the future to bring my skill sets here and to be able to contribute and to be a global citizen, not just to travel overseas, but to work in Canada and to bring changes here. So I thank you guys so much for providing this opportunity, and there's so much to learn. I'm just excited for every day. Thank you.
Well stated. Well done.
Good job.
Right?
Follow that. Well, hi, everybody. I just wanted to take this moment to say that it's a really big privilege for us to be here this week. We've only been here for about a day and a half, but already we've got to do so much. We went for a run this afternoon, beautiful canal. We went to eat at delicious restaurants. We got to meet great doctors. I've met a couple people at the clinic today. It was amazing. Everyone was so welcoming. There's such a big sense of community here. Everybody knows each other. Everybody asks about each other's families, and I'm just really happy to be here.
Great job.
Yeah.
So first off, obviously I'd like to thank everyone that's made this only day and a half that we've been here, feel like we've been here for a month. I personally already feel like I'm a part of the community, and everyone's been so welcoming, and it's been an incredible experience. And also, this is really sort of the closure that we're getting on our year. We finished our last exam the Friday before we came here. So this is like the grand finale and the closure, and I think this is really putting our whole journey through this year of becoming medical students and understanding that we're going to be future physicians and that we're going to be providing care for people. So I think it's amazing to come here and sort of culminate that journey and to see different aspects of medicine that we might not be exposed to in a place like Ottawa, things like community and working together and integrative healthcare. So it's a privilege to be here, and thank you for making this experience what it is.
Good job. Well done. Good.
Hi, my name is Tiffany. I just wanted to, again, thank everyone for the incredible privilege of letting us come and stay with you for a week. The experience has been wonderful so far. I went into clinic this morning, and all the patients were really welcoming, let me sit in on their appointments. I got to talk to a lot of them, and this has been a really great opportunity to learn how medicine works in a rural setting, because we're from Ottawa, so it's quite different. And so I just wanted to thank everyone for being so welcoming and for giving us this incredible opportunity.
Your turn.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Sophie Gravel, and I represent the Rural Ontario Medical Program, affectionately known as ROMP. We are a non-for-profit that is funded by the Ministry of Health and Long-Term Care. And basically what we do is we work with the 6 med schools here in Ontario and try to encourage students to come do a placement in rural communities so that they get to see what the lifestyle is like, what the different challenges are, and all the great things that we have to offer in small communities. So I would just like to thank the community of Port Colborne through the leadership of Joanne, who has been doing this for 12 years now. She has always welcomed the best and the brightest med students to hopefully maybe encourage them to continue their practice in rural settings. So thank you again on behalf of the Rural Ontario Medical Program.
Once again, great job, guys. You did the dare by the mayor very well. I would be very remiss not to point out the leadership of Councillor B. Kenny and all the other members of the committee, some of whom are on council here, Councillor Bodner, Councillor Doucette, Councillor Kenny, and other members here in the gallery. I mean, without your support, this would not be possible, and supporting the education of the medical students at this level is critical to ensuring that our practices are complemented by the best possible physicians and the best possible physicians that fit our wonderful rural community of Port Colborne. So once again, thank you so much.
If I can just say a few words as well. I did have the privilege with Councillor Kennedy last evening to have dinner with these youngsters, and I tell you, they're well versed not only in the medical field, but also well versed as just members of our, and I say our, I mean the province's overall community. Very well done, by the way, guys. I tell you, I challenged them last night to say a 15-minute speech, and they took on that challenge, and every one of you spoke very well. Very well. You represent yourself as well as your profession very well. But once again, welcome to our community, welcome to the region, as well as welcome to your new world when it comes to helping people. And I think you folks are up to it, and we look forward to your careers, hopefully coming to Port Colborne, but albeit great success, great wishes, and of course all the best to you folks in your future as medical professionals, but most importantly helping those folks through communities throughout the world, not just here in Canada. So good luck to you, and thank you again.
Thank you.
Enjoy. B, do they know the surprise yet?
Well, thanks to you.
So is that tomorrow? Yes. It is, eh? They're going to enjoy that. Weather permitting? They're going to get a bird's eye view of Niagara. Yeah. So, yeah, we'll see. Okay, folks, we're now going to move on to our delegations. And our only delegation this evening is Mark Guilbeault, Vice President of Community Living Port Colborne Wainfleet, regarding Community Living Awareness Month. Mark, as always, welcome. Watch your head. Welcome, Mark. Great to have you out.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Members of Council, citizens of Port Colborne. My name's Mark. I'm the Vice President of the Board of Directors of Community Living in Port Colborne Wainfleet. And as you may or may not know, May is Community Living Awareness Month in Ontario, and it provides a wonderful opportunity for Community Living Port Colborne Wainfleet to celebrate the abilities and achievements of people with intellectual disabilities. It's also a time to promote awareness about the importance of increasing the capacity of Port Colborne and Wainfleet to embrace and welcome people of all abilities. Our message continues to be the importance of respecting the rights of people with intellectual disabilities and the importance of social inclusion of all people with disabilities. Tonight, we are pleased to be raising awareness and celebrating people with intellectual disabilities as valued and contributing members of the Port Colborne and Wainfleet communities. We encourage everyone in Port Colborne and Wainfleet to join with us as we strive to make our vision of a community where everyone belongs a reality. Community Living Port Colborne Wainfleet has supported people in our community for the past 52 years. We support over 220 children and adults and their families. Our 150 employees strive to promote and facilitate community inclusion, meaningful participation, and full citizenship. We sincerely appreciate our funders, which include the Ministry of Community and Social Services, United Way of South Niagara, the Port Colborne Hydro Foundation, the Niagara Community Foundation, Good Life Kids Foundation, Motivate Canada, Business Education Council, and Green Shield Canada Foundation. want to thank you for having us here and for the city's continued support of Community Living Port Colborne Wainfleet. And finally, as always, we'd like to encourage everyone in Port Colborne to celebrate Community Living Awareness Month by including someone you know with an intellectual disability in your community's social events and activities. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Well stated. Members of council, are there any questions or comments to the presenter? With none, well, to Mark and Vicky, I have to say, and from first-hand experience from many years working with you folks, job well done. You are truly an organization within this community that looks after this community. And I truly appreciate the work that you do, not only for the obvious, but also for the youngsters, especially of late, how you've really taken on a lot more in comparison to the traditional services that you provide. So kudos to you guys and good on you guys. To you, your board, all the volunteers, and of course the staff, and even some of the clients that you work with on a daily basis, because I know a lot of them are also volunteers. Job well done. You guys are just doing a wonderful job here in the city of Port Colborne. Keep it up. Members of council, we're now going to move on to our reports. Councillor Barrick, you're up.
Great, thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. I'll keep it brief this evening. I really wanted to mention today the Niagara Region and City of Niagara Falls is hosting the Federation of Canadian Municipalities Conference, FCM Conference, this upcoming weekend. And of course, we're thrilled to host this significant event. It brings over 2,000 municipal leaders from across Canada with several keynote speakers and federal municipal leaders. It will generate between $4 and $6 million in economic activity for the region. And over 30% of those coming will be staying beyond the conference period before and or after. And including, there are several study tours and companion tours, several of which will be stopping here in Port Colborne, downtown Port Colborne as well. So we're excited to have Port Colborne as part of the overall regional event as well. The other thing I wanted to highlight, Mr. Mayor, is in your council packages this evening, you'll see the Niagara Regional Housing Board of Directors quarterly report. And myself being on the board and the board itself has requested that this information be sent out to all local councils, not just the Niagara region, to provide local councils with a snapshot of NRH in their communities as well. So we're happy to provide that information. That's all I've got today, Mr. Mayor. I'm happy to take any questions as always.
Thank you, Councillor Barrick. Members of council, any questions or comments to the regional councillor? Or councillors, I guess? With none, David, well done. Thank you. Members, we're now going to move on to councillors' items, new business. Councillors' items, new business. With none, we're going to move on now to the... I didn't see no hands go up. We'll now move on to the adoption of the minutes. There's a hockey game on tonight, guys. My apologies. So there's no councillors' items. Okay, good. Adoption of the minutes. We do have the minutes of the 13th meeting regular of Committee of the Whole, dated May 12, 2014. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Kenny, Councillor Desmarais. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Items requiring separate discussion. We're going to set up item 1. If somebody can put that on the floor, please. Councillor Steele.
Thank you, Your Worship. For His Worship, item 1, Department of Community and Corporate Services, Community Services Division, report number 2014-8, subject Optimist Day in the Park and Canada Day fireworks. The Council hereby approves and authorizes the closure of the following roads for the purpose of controlling traffic for the Canada Day fireworks celebration by prohibiting general vehicular traffic and parking by the public, with the exemption of ambulance, police, or fire department vehicles, or any other vehicles required in the case of an emergency. Public works vehicles, public utility vehicles are authorized by permit only, beginning at 9 p.m. Tuesday, July 1st, 2014, and ending at 11 p.m. on Tuesday, July 1st, 2014. West Street from the southern limit of Charlotte Street to the southern limit of the Public Works Yard property.
Thank you, Councillor Steele. So I have a seconder to that recommendation, please. Councillor Danch. Mr. Hakeem, if you can let us know what's happening that day, so the folks out there watching in COGECO land will get a good idea of the change from last year to this year.
Yes, Your Worship. Through you to the members of council and the public. This year, obviously, with some of the changes that we've undertaken with the hiatus of Flavors of Niagara, Optimist Day in the Park, the Family Day in the Park, has moved in to provide a celebration for the community as far as a community focal point and an event that I think will has certainly been embraced by the Optimist Club. Normally in the past, our event has fallen on a weekend. And this year, because of the way Canada Day falls on July 1st on a Tuesday, it kind of presented some logistical challenges. But nonetheless, the Optimists have stepped up and have certainly provided a good full venue of activities for the day for the entire family. Following that, there'll be a break in activities. And I believe around 10 o'clock, if I'm not mistaken, approximately 10 o'clock, the fireworks display will be provided over the canal along West Street during the times that the road closure will be in effect.
Thank you, Mr. Hakeem. So just to summarize, folks, and be very clear, there will be activities in the park on Canada Day. There will be a Canada Day cake cutting. I believe it's at 2 o'clock once again. Stay tuned for the advertisements that we'll be putting out. And finally, the fireworks will be happening that evening, beginning at dusk. Mr. Hakeem, anything else?
Just to perhaps reiterate some things, aside from what Your Worship you said, the Optimists will be providing a full scale of a breakdown of approximately what their events and activities will be highlighting. So we're in constant communication with them and certainly working with them throughout the entire period.
Great, thank you, Harry. Questions or comments, members of council? With no questions or comments, all those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Thank you. Item 2, Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Mayor. Department of Community and Corporate Services, Community Service Division, report number 2014-9. Subject: proposal from a Junior A Tier 2 ice hockey team to locate and play at the Valley Health and Wellness Center. That City Council supports the proposal made by the Niagara Whalers, and that Council authorize staff to continue with all preliminary discussions and make the necessary arrangements to facilitate the request made by the Niagara Whalers for the 2014-2015 ice hockey season, and that staff be directed to draft a lease agreement identifying all the necessary costs and associated tenant requirements based on similar tenant agreements that would be presented to City Council for approval. And at which point the municipal clerk would be authorized to prepare the appropriate bylaw that would execute the lease agreement between the City of Port Colborne and the ownership of the Niagara Whalers.
Thank you, Councillor. Do I have a seconder to that, please? Councillor Steele. Are there any questions or comments? Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Mayor. I won't support this for one reason and one reason only. This Tier 2 team operates in an outlaw hockey league. It's not under the auspices of Hockey Canada, the OHA, the OHF, or minor hockey or anything like that. This league allows kids to play that are 15 years old up to the age of 22. So you have basically men playing against boys. This is a for-pay hockey team, a hockey league. They generally charge between $6,000 and $10,000 a player to get on the team. They do not adhere to any rules that that Hockey Canada has set. They play outside the rules, and for that fact, I will not support them coming into the city.
Thank you, Councillor. Any further comments or questions? With none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Thank you. We'll now move on to item 8. Councillor Doucette.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I was daydreaming for a minute there. It happens every once in a while. Department of Planning and Development report number 2014-37, 213, year-end results, community improvement plan incentive programs. That this report be received for information purposes.
Thank you, Councillor. Do I have a seconder to that, please? Councillor Desmarais. Questions or comments? Councillor Doucette.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I support any kind of incentive programs, especially in our CIP area. My only concern is that when I started looking at the pictures that are there, in some cases, the only improvement I see is a new sign. Now, is a new sign part of the facade program, or is a new sign supposed to be for the business, and I have some concerns about that. There are other buildings in the pictures here that were really well done. The whole facade was redone, not a problem with that. And then you've also got the issue of only changing the windows, and what they've done is they've changed the windows. The building itself hasn't changed, and it's only the windows that have, and that doesn't change any facade that I know of. So I'm just concerned. We're limited in how much money we have. We only have $55,000 approximately that we put in there every year. And if what we're doing is replacing windows and businesses are getting money from us to replace their signs, then are we misdirecting some of the funds? I'm concerned. I would like maybe some comments from Mr. Aquilina on that. And maybe I'm misinterpreting this, but you know, like I said, I mean, I'm looking at quite a few businesses where it's strictly the sign or the windows, nothing else.
Mr. Aquilina.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Doucette, under the CIPs itself, it does identify windows and signs as being part of facade. So we continue on that basis to allow those opportunities for the applications to be made and for those buildings to be improved.
Thank you, Mr. Aquilina. Councillor?
Thank you very much for the information. I guess we'll have to discuss it because I have some concerns with the limited amount of money that we have. If someone wants to do a real facade build up, something like the old family shoe store that was done, and that was one of the pictures we saw there. It's not that anymore. That whole facade was done, and all people are doing is replacing their signs or replacing windows. Then I have some concerns with that money being used just for that.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you to Mr. Aquilina. Dan, can you just expand a little bit how popular this incentive plan has been, both through the Main Street BIA and the Main Street CIP and the downtown CIP?
Mr. Aquilina.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Councillor Elliott. We have 6 CIPs. 4 of those have taken advantage. Main Street CIP, the downtown CIP, the East Waterfront CIP, and as well the Brownfield CIP. In the report, you'll see the actual spreadsheet that tells you what applications have been received. This report is one of the most pleasing ones that I actually am honored to sign and bring before the council. It shows, demonstrates that the monies that council has put together in the budget year in and year out actually goes towards the private property owners to improve their properties. The pictures demonstrate the before and after. Very, very popular. Every year the monies that council budgets are spent. We're fortunate that the region kicks in and tops up the monies that we provide. They don't honor all of our incentive programs, but they do the majority of those. And you could see the private property owners are doing exactly what the city council had envisioned with adopting and putting these community improvement plans in place. As I mentioned to Mayor Badaway during our COGECO taping, when you look at all the other municipalities in the region, we are tremendous in what we are accomplishing in comparison. So it's working. And I commend council for actually putting the money year in and year out.
Thank you, Mr. Aquilina. Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks, Dan, for that. And I don't want to diminish any of the other CIPs, but obviously the most traction is through the Main Street and the downtown, with obvious reasons for the commercial one. We've already committed $50,000 back into the budget this year for this year's CIP funding. I just wonder, in your opinion, is that $50,000 going to be enough moving forward if we get buy-in from the other ones, or next council next year, starting in 2015 budget, would you consider upping it maybe another 25, get it to $75,000, because it appears to be fairly successful?
I think at year end will be the best telltale of that, and quite frankly, that question will go to council, whether council would be willing to actually up the ante with respect to what the year end shows. Mr. Aquilina.
Mr. Mayor, it demonstrates year in and year out the monies that we put in place. When you take into consideration the region's monies, we're dry at the end of the year. What we do is it first come, first serve, and the applications then get looked into the following year. So it's ongoing, but it depends on how much monies council is willing to put into the place. But exactly. I believe any amount of money would be consumed.
Thank you, Mr. Aquilina. Councillor Desmarais.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Dan Eklina. Dan, I really thank you for the work that you've put into this because it's made a huge difference. And as everybody can see from the pictures, there's one house renovation that took place on the east side in the East Village. It's an amazing difference. You can really see the effect that this can have on a community. There's just a couple of things. One thing I would like to see us consider, though, is breaking some of those dollars out and holding them for residential use. Because, I mean, clearly the businesses could take advantage of them much easier than many of the residents. So it would protect the residents' right to get in there and be able to use those dollars. And also, I would like to see us follow up a little bit more on what actually happens. The success story is certainly the one that's on the screen right now, but there's another property where we did give money to them, and it was a bit of a mess. It wasn't properly followed through with, and I'd like to see that we keep on people and make sure that they hold with their end of the agreement. But seriously, this is one of the best things that's hit our area as far as the East Village goes in a long time. It's really helping out, and I know that there are many residents who are saving their money to come up with the half that they need to be able to make changes like the one you see on the screen right there.
Thank you, Councillor. Any further comments or questions? My only comment, Dan, is great job to you and staff as well as to council for supporting this program. Dan and I did a COGECO taping last, Richard was kind enough to bring us in at COGECO last week and to tape a few shows. And this is one of the topics that we discussed. When you look around the Niagara region, and nothing against any other municipality, but one of the things that we've been able to boast here in the city of Port Colborne, and a lot of it's to do with these CIPs, is a very vibrant downtown. I constantly, now I don't get this often from people in Port Colborne, unfortunately, but outside of Port Colborne, people coming in constantly comment about both downtowns, both on Main Street as well as up and down, as well as Clarence Street, West Street, and of course the King and Charlotte areas. And although, as we mentioned last week, Dan, although government is very limited in terms of our contributions to the private sector because of legislation and the law, the CIPs is one tool that we're allowed to utilize to then contribute to the private sector, and especially to the retail sector, because let's face it, the retail sector took a real big hit in the last 3 or 4 years during the recession, and for this council to step up to the plate and contribute not only to the private businesses with respect to their facade improvements, whether it be sign, windows, overall facade improvements, but as well even the aesthetics and the streetscaping and the other contributions that you have made with the private sector, that is starting to take shape now. We're starting to see that, and quite frankly, I think it's starting to pay dividends. I had 8 grand openings in the last 2 weeks. 8 grand openings in the last 2 weeks. I haven't had that in the last 3 years. So we're starting to rebound. The retail sector is starting to rebound now. We can see it. The shops in the downtown are starting to fill up, and albeit it hasn't happened as quickly as we would all like it, but it is what it is, and it is reality, especially within the economic climate that we find ourselves in now and we have in the last 3 or 4 years. So programs like this do work. They are working, and hopefully the next council will see it within their wisdom to actually, as Councillor Demery and Councillor Elliott alluded to, put some more money into the program so that therefore we can continue in our downtowns, both Main Street and of course the area of which City Hall sits in will prosper because of it. So Dan, good on you, good on your staff, and of course all those business leaders that are taking full advantage of this program. So with that, any further questions or comments? With none, all those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Thank you. We'll now move on to item 11. Councillor Steele.
Thank you, Your Worship. Item number 11, Cement Association of Canada re-request for deferral of proposed changes to the Ontario Building Code Act to permit the construction of a 6-story wood frame buildings. That the correspondence received from the Cement Association of Canada re-request for deferral of proposed changes to the Ontario Building Code Act to permit the construction of 6-story wood frame buildings be referred to the Association of Consulting Engineers of Ontario, requesting comments and input.
Do we have a seconder to that, please? Councillor Danch, questions or comments? Councillor Steele.
Thank you. I do apologize. My city machine is broken down. Something's wrong with the battery, so I've got my own here, but I can't scroll as quick. I won't charge. Anyways, Your Worship, through you to the fire chief. I spoke to the fire chief earlier. Being in the insurance business, I mean, this is kind of near and dear to the heart as far as, you know, what kind of buildings are built out there, what they're built of, what safety features are within them. But my question through you to the fire chief is, Fire Chief, do you see a real problem in this? I know it's been discussed in our association at our company levels, and I know there's quite a bit of talk out there. I get that through my trade magazines, pros and cons both ways. But on a fire level, can you just give us some insight on if you build a 6-story, 6 stories is pretty high, frame building, and what may be the consequences to having, you know, for the fire department with fires and things like that?
Thank you, Councillor. Chief Cartwright.
Through your worship to councillors. Yes, the Ontario Fire Service has concerns with construction of this type in the height that they're determining to do. The fire chiefs in the province of Ontario have been against this particular promotion simply because it's a larger hazard than what you might think it to be. In particular, during the construction phase of these particular units, they're open to vandalism, they're open to accidents occurring within them. They catch on fire relatively easy and spread very, very quickly. There is some limitations with regards to anything over 4 stories. It does require sprinkling, but unfortunately, until the building is complete and the sprinklers are in place, we have that continued hazard. The association, when I say the association, the Fire Chiefs Association, have made a number of summations to the Ontario Building Commission with regards to these particular buildings. They seem to have fallen on deaf ears. Other people and other organizations are rallying around the fact that there's been some recent occasions where large buildings such as this have caught on fire. Once a building is complete, the drywall is in place, the safety hazards or safety devices are in place. They're no different than probably any other type of building. Where we get caught up in them is during the time of construction. They become a significant hazard for us.
Thanks, Chief. Councillor?
CAO?
Did you want to say
something?
Go ahead. Bob?
Your Worship, we're just going to speak, and the clerk and I discussed this recommendation quite a bit at the beginning because we're determining, you know, do we oppose, do we not? And we thought that with a concern from the fire chiefs, it is the Consulting Engineers Association of Ontario that will ultimately be responsible for the design, those and the architects. The reason we put the recommendation as it is and suggest this recommendation is to get feedback from the people that are actually responsible for how these things get constructed. That's the people right there that do the design. That's why the recommendation was where it is. We understand clearly the concern of the fire chief. We had spoken to it about even a single-story home, if it's not properly protected, is a fire trap from vandals and that kind of thing. But we decided, Your Worship, in the preparation of this recommendation that these people are the ones that are responsible. They should tell this council whether or not this is a good thing.
Thank you. Councillor?
Thank you, Your Worship. I mean, just with regards to their letter to us, I mean, obviously the Cement Association has, you know, they have their reasons behind this too. You know, if you look at virtually every large apartment building in Port Colborne, you know, as well as this building, it's concrete slab, brick, you know, with your mostly probably steel studs inside as opposed to wood studs for the drywall and so on. So, you know, as a safety feature, you know, with the invent of the sprinkler systems now, and they're, you know, the next step would probably be to put them in new home construction, which is what I know the Fire Chiefs Association of Ontario has spoken to us about with regards to our associations. The insurance associations behind that, and you're seeing certain large builders kind of fighting back, but I think they're seeing a reasoning why it's a good idea to get get sprinkler systems within homes. But a 6-story building, I'll go back to it, is huge. If you look at 300 and 400 steel, I just can't imagine that being a great big frame building. I can't. I know they can build them, but just on the fire side. However, you know, we are in the midst of an election here in Ontario. Not that anybody's really listening, but if in the meantime we could ask, obviously the minister is, I suppose he's still the minister until after the election, which, well, I have my opinion on that, but can we still send a letter? I think we should send a letter, though, seriously, a letter from this municipality asking for a deferral so that we can get our information back, as the CAO said. Give us some more information through the fire chief's office so we really know the decision we're making is the right decision. But we can send it to the Municipal Affairs Department so they have it on record now. So if I could ask for that to be added to this, that in the meantime we do send that they kind of make a step back until all the parties you know, have had a little bit more say in this. I think it has been rushed based on what I've read about it in the insurance magazines. So I do have some concern on that portion of it. So that's all I ask, is that we also refer a note to municipal affairs with regards to deferring it until after the election and all parties have had a chance to speak on this.
Thank you, Councillor. I'll take that as an amendment. If I can have a seconder to that, Councillor Desmarais. Are there any questions or comments to the amendment? All those in favor to the amendment? Opposed? That will be carried. To the amended motion, any further questions or comments? Mr. Aquilina.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I did have an opportunity to talk to Lyle Merritt, our chief building official, and he actually mentioned that out of all the Niagara chief building officials, they meet on a monthly basis, and they actually talked about this actual proposal. Obviously, it's made its way around to the different municipal councils. His comment to me was interesting. We heard from the fire chief regarding during the construction. His comment to me was a wooden structure of this 6 stories would require a sprinkler system, would be far safer than right now the Ontario Code talks about a concrete building which does not require sprinklerization. Yes, so that was his comment, that right now this type of structure would be safer after it's constructed and all the sprinkler systems are in place.
Thank you, Mr. Aquilina. Further questions or comments? Councillor Steele.
Thank you, and I'm glad Dan brought that up. You're right, and it goes back to what I said earlier, even with regards to homes. Most, 99% of homes today are frame construction. However, if you look at what the fire chief said, it's during the building process. In the last 10 years, just look at Toronto with their townhousing projects. They go up like matchsticks when the arsonists get in there. I can just imagine with this, probably the nicest bonfire in Niagara. But I think it goes beyond that, where all these buildings should have sprinkler systems in them. I mean, I know my parents live at 400 Steele. There's no sprinkler system in there, not in their units. So, but I think all these buildings of this size should have sprinkler systems. I mean, most retirement homes, and I know the ones in Port Colborne, are all retrofitting for them now, and I think it is law that they have to retrofit. All brand new ones have to have them installed when they're built. So it is getting there, and I think it's councils like this that should be pushing for safer buildings. It's safer for our staff and our fire departments and building officials that have to tour these buildings, so, and safer for the residents. So I know what you're saying, that it could be safer in the long run, but I think from start to finish, I think there are a lot more problems with these type of buildings, as has been indicated, than waiting till it's finished. So, it's a huge safety issue, but that's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any further questions or comments to the amended motion? All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Thank you. So with no other items on the agenda, we are now going to move on to notices of motion. Are there any notices of motion? Before I move on to adjourn, I did want to ask Mr. Lee, it was brought to my attention recently that they are now investigating solar-powered smart roads. Has staff heard anything about that?
It's ironic that you should actually bring it up, because we had a brief discussion amongst some staff earlier today where they were talking about with the solar roads, there's also LED lighting that goes with them. And they were marking lanes, changing them, using those. It's just something that's come up just recently to our attention in the last few days. So actually, I think there was something on the weekend that one of the staff members had noticed. And it created a discussion amongst us.
I've seen a video on it, actually, and it's quite impressive. But then it actually melts the roads.
Was there any snow on it?
No. There would never be any snow on it because it's heated. As well as sidewalks and parking lots, and the markings change depending on what you want to use it for. It was quite intriguing, actually. Obviously, how much is it going to cost? But if staff can take a quick look at it and see what you come back with, that would be great. I think it might open some eyes with respect to what can be done, and then attached to that, possibly the cost savings, if there's any cost savings. So it looks quite extravagant, but hey, it doesn't dismiss the opportunity to look at it. So, okay, thanks, Chris. Okay, with that, members, I'm going to ask for a motion to adjourn this part of the agenda. Councillor Steele, Councillor Bodner, questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. We'll now move on to our final segment of tonight's entertainment. Council meeting. Folks, first off, Madam Clerk, are there any addendum items?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There is one item I'd like to bring to Council's attention this evening, the addition of item D to your closed session agenda. That's the confidential verbal report from the Mayor concerning advocate environmental reports in respect of community risk-based assessment, and that item was circulated via addendum on May 23rd.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We'll now move on to disclosures of interest. Are there any disclosures of interest? Councillor Elliott?
Thank you, Mayor. I have a pecuniary interest in item C of the closed session, as I represent the brokerage that has the property listed for sale.
Thank you, Councillor. Any further disclosures? With none, move to confirm the agenda, please. Councillor Kenny, Councillor Butters, questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. I do have one set of minutes to adopt. The minutes of the 13th meeting regular of Council dated May 12th, 2014. Members of Council, mover and seconder, please. Councillor Danch, Councillor Elliott, questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That would be carried. Items requiring a separate discussion, please. Councillor Elliott.
Item 2.
Thank you, Councillor. Any further items? Councillor Danch.
Item 10.
Further items? With none, I'll ask for a motion to accept the remainder of the items, please. Mover and seconder, Councillor Desmarais, Councillor Doucette. Questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Councillor Elliott, item 2, please.
Department of Community and Corporate Services, Community Services Division, report number 2014-8, subject proposal from a Junior A Tier 2 ice hockey team to locate and play at the Valley Health and Wellness Center. The City Council supports the proposal made by the Niagara Whalers, and that Council authorized staff to continue with all preliminary discussions and make the necessary arrangements to facilitate the request made by the Niagara Whalers for the 2014-2015 ice hockey season, and that staff be directed to draft a lease agreement identifying all the necessary costs and associated tenant requirements based on similar tenant agreements that would be presented to City Council for approval, and at which point the municipal clerk would be authorized to prepare the appropriate bylaw that would execute the lease agreement between the City of Port Colborne and the ownership of the Niagara Whalers.
Thank you, Councillor. Do I have a seconder to that, please? Councillor Steele. Questions or comments to that? Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Mayor. Didn't seem like there was much discussion around it, so I thought I'd bring it up in Council, and I will be asking for a recorded vote on this. I'm surprised that with the storied history of hockey in Port Colborne and always playing under the rules of the leagues in place, the OHF, the OHA, Hockey Canada, we promote fair play, we have our coaches trained, speak out events they go to so that they learn how to handle the kids if there's any problems. This league is an outlaw league. This league doesn't answer to anybody but themselves. If you take a look at where they play in real small town communities where there's not much hockey going on, and they get in, they charge kids. Believe it or not, $6,000 or $10,000 to play hockey. If you play in this league, you get suspended by Hockey Canada that you cannot play in their league next year. I'm surprised that Port Colborne Minor Hockey, or anybody that's associated with hockey in this town, would agree to have these guys come in. They don't play by the rules. That's why it's a separate league. That's why they charge kids to play. There was a team in the league that had all Russian hockey players play on it. They bring the kids over from Europe to play. Promise you, you're going to get scouted. You'll have an opportunity to go somewhere, and it's great. They call it Tier 2 hockey, but it's basically Junior C or below. They allow 22-year-old kids to play with 15-year-old kids. Junior A doesn't allow that. You can apply for a special exemption. Junior B doesn't allow that. You can have a special exemption. Junior B only goes up to 21. So you've basically got men playing against boys. If that's what we want to allow to come in, revenue $15,000. If we're voting on revenue, we're voting on revenue. But ask yourself, why does this one league play outside the rules that everybody else abides by? Why is that? Why did they take their ball and go play in somebody else's court and make up the rules as they go along? Do their coaches have to meet the same standard that all the Hockey Canada coaches do? Who sets the rules? Who makes the rules? Who holds everybody to account? There's no checks and balances. The league is owned by a couple of gentlemen. That's it. How do you know who's coaching your team? How do you check? Go to Hockey Canada website.
There's training sessions for trainers, for coaches, for parents. This league doesn't have anything and charges the kids to play. We've already got Junior A, Junior B, Junior C in town. We've got Senior up in Welland. All of the people that play hockey in all of Niagara play under the Hockey Canada banner and report back to them, except this league. And I'm having a hard time understanding why we would want to have this kind of league come into town when we play by the rules here and this league doesn't. And that's why I won't support this, and I will call for a recorded vote.
Thank you, Councillor Elliott. Further questions or comments? Councillor Butters.
I have a couple of questions, and I think that there was a gentleman here who maybe was a part of this this new group that wants to come to Port Colborne, and I really wish that he was still here, because maybe then he could have answered some of the accusations that have been announced here. So I think it's really pretty unfair to make all those accusations and the person who could best speak to it not be here to answer that. Right now, like God knows I'm no hockey guru. I'm the first to admit it. I know what a puck looks like, and I watch them play occasionally, but I don't know all the ins and outs of the hockey world, we'll say. So I think it is, though, pretty unfair to level all these claims and then that the person who best could answer them isn't here to answer them. So if there is a big problem in passing this tonight, to me, or if there's other councillors who share Councillor Elliott's concerns, then they better speak up. I think that to call them an outlaw, that assumes that they play outside of some law. Well, if they don't, they're not under the big Hockey Canada umbrella, and they've created their own league. What's illegal about that? They not have a right to exist in this country? Like, maybe I'm seeing this wrong, but if parents want to have their kids play under that league, pay whatever their rules are, isn't that their right to do so? Isn't this about a choice of whether you want to play here or you want to play this? Under what system? Is it you're just only supposed to have Hockey Canada? You're not allowed to look at anything else? I think as a parent, I would be looking for my child to see where they best fit, what I felt was best for them, and I don't need anybody else telling me how to do that. I think I'd be quite capable of looking at both sides of things and making a determination. So unless there's somebody else that can explain it better, I don't have a problem supporting this.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Kenny.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Mr. Hakeem. Harry, you've all, obviously had an opportunity to speak to this group, or this wouldn't be before us. So I guess I have to rely on your expertise, because like Barb, my favorite hockey team is golfing. So I know that much about it. I still haven't had a Stanley Cup held up for 49 years. So. Doesn't matter though, I still love them. But anyways, Harry, obviously are there teams associated with this team, because you can't play by yourself? What are you going to do, skate around? Like, are they going to have games? And are the games going to be sanctioned games? Do you know, like I'm relying on you. I don't have a problem either. I agree with Barbara. If your son or cannot get into these other leagues and he has to pay $6,000 or $10,000 to play hockey, he's playing hockey, and he's content and you're happy he's playing hockey. But I guess I have some concerns. Is this team, you say it's an outlaw team because it doesn't fall under the OHL or all those other titles that we have, but you must have competence, Harry, or you wouldn't be putting them in our New Vale Center.
Mr. Hakeem.
So if you can just answer some questions about that.
Through your worship to Councillor Kenny. When they approached us at the Valley Health and Wellness Center, actually I directed Brian to meet with them to get all the details and basically put the proposal, or at least the report, together in a very simplified way. The term outlaw, the first time I'd heard it, to be quite honest with you, I wasn't quite sure what was meant by that. They are a credible organization, a credible league. They certainly have 23 up to 24 teams. I think this will make it the 25th team. And they have a development program. They do stand by their business model, which we quickly scanned, but we're entering into, I guess, another opportunity, another avenue for players. We looked at every possible angle with respect to availability at the facility and all the logistics that we had to encounter. And if there was anything that conflicted with anything that we felt was inappropriate or crossed the line, we got a good sense that that wasn't the case. The ice time's available. The business model was sound for our benefit. Again, the revenues are there. We are trying to operate as a business would, looking at every opportunity. I think it's fair competition from our view. Again, we just simply brought forward the information that we felt was necessary for council to review, make a decision on, and hopefully provide us with the direction to go forward and come back with a more comprehensive report and a lease agreement that will outline some of the benefits that we'll be looking at with this organization. So Mr. Fines, he's a co-owner, was here. I actually quickly texted him to see if he would come back in case there were any other questions that certainly were a little bit more poignant to what the league is about. But again, we saw everything that was valid as far as we were concerned, as far as their business model, and the fact that they fit well within our available times, and they're actually taking advantage of some ice times that normally would just be idle in most communities. So we're actually quite fortunate to see how this will work. And again, it's a lease agreement. It could be for 3 years. It could be for 5 years. We're not sure yet. We haven't entered in those discussions, but we plan to, and we'll come back with a little bit more detail and outline, and council will have a chance to approve that once again, or look at it and for approval.
Thank you, Mr. Hakeem.
Thank you.
Councilor Butters?
I just have one more question. If anybody, is this in any way, would be in any way harmful to our current minor hockey program? What we have right now, is there anybody that can answer that, or maybe Mr. Hakeem?
Mr. Hakeem?
Be a part of that report coming back. Is there any kind of, if you crystal ball this, can you foresee any potential harm to the minor hockey kids that we have now?
Mr. Hakeem?
Through your worship to Councillor Butters. Simple answer, no. I don't have a crystal ball. But I think, again, they proposed a lot of positive qualities in terms of what they want to do within the community. The bottom line is, my limited understanding is they don't pay dues to the Ontario Hockey Association, is what I understand. And it kind of ends there, because the rest of the dynamics of this organization, from what we have learned and certainly looked into at length, is that they basically provide another opportunity, another avenue for player development, and particularly for anybody looking at post-secondary opportunities. It seemed to be that was their creed, and they wanted to work by, and certainly provide opportunities to work with the community as far as other activities that we would promote at the Valley Health and Wellness Center. They've already entered into discussions with the YMCA already, preliminary, but I don't see any negative impact, and I think we did consult with minor hockey briefly, because we did have a concern along that line, and we were given assurances everything was above board.
Thank you, Mr. Hakeem. Councillor Steele?
Just to further what Harry was actually attending our AGM a couple weeks ago, and he brought that to our attention, and we spoke about it. My only concern was ice time. It doesn't conflict with us at all. Having that league here is no different than having a junior B team, a tier 2 team, a tier 1 team, a junior A team, a senior A team. It doesn't matter. It's another team. It doesn't touch our kids. Just to a few points that Councillor Elliott brought up. The OHA charges kids to play hockey, so this is nothing new. In fact, in the United States, my son was scouted by a team and asked to sign with them in Wilkes-Barre, Scranton, which is a farm system of the Pittsburgh Penguins. It's a junior, they call it junior B. It's junior C, junior D level of quality of hockey down there in their program. Entry fee for me to send my son was $10,000. I laughed on the phone. I said, you know, our kids are paid to play hockey in Canada. We don't pay to play hockey. The OHA now charges $350 approximately per year for when a kid signs a card. Tier 2 teams in Ontario now are charging several $1,000s for players to come in. So this is nothing new. All teams are charging more. Problem is there's so much out there for people, so many sports, so many TV stations, so much going on that it's harder to get people in the door. You know, you go back to the day when I was a little guy like this and B was a lot younger, and we used to go to a Sunday night game for the Port Colborne Sailors. It was packed. You don't find that today. Very few teams. I mean, you look at Junior B hockey in Ontario, which is really everything in the west end of Ontario. Pretty much everything in the east end is what they call Tier 2, because the teams around Toronto didn't think they were Junior B caliber. They decided to form their own league called Tier 2. Yes, it's associated with the OHA, Hockey Canada. That's fine. If these people aren't, this isn't anything new. Welland had a team, what they called Outlaw, back in the 70s for a number of years. The league folded at some point and was gone, but it survived. The Welland Senior A team at that time was playing. The Junior B team in Welland was playing. You had 3 teams playing out of Welland at one time. So I mean, it's nothing new. But in those days, you didn't have 3,000 cable satellite TV stations with NASCAR, football, basketball, every level of hockey going. I mean, that's the problem today, is getting bums in the seats. So, you know, it's no different than Hockey Alliance and the OMHA when a bunch of parents split. The OMHA had a big bugaboo about that, and you know, at the first the Alliance wasn't really part of anything for hockey, and then it became a member of Hockey Canada. So will these guys ever? I don't know. One league fighting against the other. Ones are established, they're already members, they're going to try to keep others out. Is it a better case scenario? I don't know. I know the way my son was treated by his previous team, which I won't speak about who it is, but I think everybody in this room knows who it was. You know, and that's supposed to be a sanctioned team, and my son was treated that way. You know, too bad. So when you can talk about all the courses and everything you go to, it's the individuals involved. If they're quality people and you try to get quality people, if you're a good parent, you really research teams, who their coaches are, where they've been, where they've come out of. We can always find these guys online as far as if they're good or bad. You know, one of these Quebec teams actually sent a letter to my son last year to try out. Wasn't his bag. I mean, he was local, and he's playing in Dunnville now for the Mudcats, which he's having a blast with his kids. He's 21 years old. There's 16-year-old kids in the league. You know, I know what David says about ages. You've got 15-year-olds playing against 20-year-olds, whether you're 20 or 21. To me, that's no difference. You've got it in Junior A. You've got it. I mean, Vance played at 14 in Junior B in Port Colborne, or Junior C at that time. But you had 14-year-olds playing Junior B against 20-year-olds. That's always been there. So, you know, again, I go back to it. It's the people involved, the quality of their coaching staffs, but again, it's the parents that must do their due diligence to make sure their kid is in the right thing. So, but paying, they all charge now, believe me, and some a lot more than others, some a lot less than others. So, but back to your question, Harry. No.
Thank you, Councillor. And with that, any more further comments or questions? Councillor Light, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. And I hear everybody's comments. You know, it's another option to play. I guess, you know, when you're under the auspices of Hockey Canada, you get a police record check done to be a coach, to be a trainer, to have anything to do with the team. I don't know if this is done with this league. Probably not. Because who are they? They don't answer to anybody else. That's my only question. Outlaw, you can ask Councillor Steele what outlaw means, because he's obviously heard it before. He knows what it means. He knows this league is an outlaw league, and that's what it means. It plays outside of the parameters that have been basically accepted by, I'm going to say 99.9% of all hockey across Canada play under the banner of Hockey Canada. Define the rules, define the regulations, and everybody plays within them. And then these guys come along and play outside them. Now you got to ask yourself why. How many other leagues, Bill, do you say across Canada play outside them, outside the rules of Hockey Canada? I'm just taking a guess. Maybe a couple, this being one of them. They say they give you an opportunity down in the States. If you Google GMHL, you can go on the team's websites and find out who they are. Most of the kids, a lot of the kids come from Europe. A lot of them come from the U.S. with the promise that you're playing Tier 2 junior hockey, you're going to get scouted. Most of the kids have an offer. They don't say they signed a package. They have been offered to usually D3 schools. Don't know what the packages are. Don't know how many of them signed. That's my only concern, is how the league is run, and how is it for the kids playing in it. How are they treated? You've basically, I know Bill's got probably more a problem that they suffered. But Hockey Canada keeps everything as much as they can under control because they know who's doing what. You got to go to courses. This GMHL website that I went to, they've got an ad for referees because they can't get referees. Are they qualified referees? Do they go to school? How much do they know? It's just come and be a ref in our league because we need referees. That's the only thing I got. We're rushing into something. I don't know how much research we've done on them. They say they want to come and pay us $15,000 to rent the ice. That's great. The ice time they're using, I think it says in the report here, he starts at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. These kids are in high school. How do you practice at 2 in the afternoon? You're going to have to leave school at 1 to go and get ready to play, or earlier. So there they miss a couple of days. I get it. It's a choice. You want to pay the money to have your kid go and play hockey, that's your choice. I personally am not comfortable with it because of who they are, and they don't answer to anybody. There is no boards. There's no governing body. It's the owners of the league, and that's all you've got. So, again, like I say, I can't support it for that simple fact.
Thank you. Any further comments or questions? Members of council? I just want to make one quick comment, and I'm not going to comment on the credibility of the league. Quite frankly, it's not my place to do that. I think there's 3 issues here that this council, city council, and city staff should consider on really focusing on. One is the business plan that we put forward with respect to the Valley Health and Wellness Center. Harry's got a job, and that is to put, as Bill said, bumps and seats and people on the ice and people in the center to ultimately to relieve the taxpayer of any ongoing pressure when it comes to the operational costs of that facility. And of course, with this report, I read that these folks are going to be taking ice that otherwise isn't being taken, and never has, quite frankly, traditionally, between 2 and 3 in the afternoon. Besides the high schools who use it for their games and practices, very little is used at that time. So again, Harry, good on you with respect to trying to, again, fit someone into that business strategy. With respect to the program itself, again, I'm not going to give much comment on it. I look at it more like a development program versus a league, where they're given another option. As Councillor Butters stated, and Barb, you hit it right on the head. Although you say you don't know much about hockey, you hit the nail right on the head. You know how to be a mom. But it's simply another option. And if those parents or those individuals want to take advantage of that option, then so be it. If they don't, they won't. If they want to play in the Canadian League or the OHL or the CMHA, they will. If they don't, then they'll go to this league. So, but it's just simply another option that people can consider, and it's not, quite frankly, our place to actually dictate which option they should consider. That's up to them. And finally, and Councillor Elliott does bring a point up with respect to, I guess, a screening process. You know, is it our place to begin or put in policy that we screen everyone that uses our facilities? Whether it be folks going on the ice to rent the ice, organizations, it could be anything from a Club Frontenac type atmosphere to a minor hockey type atmosphere to a junior club type atmosphere. Is it council's place then to move forward to screen the users that we put on in our facilities to that extent? I know we do some screening, of course, but to that extent, with respect to who we actually allow to give us their money to utilize our facilities, whether it be the marina, whether it be the beaches, whether it be the parks, whether it be the arenas, whether it be the pools, etc. Do we want to go that far? So I think those are the 3 points that council wants to focus on. In our recap, 1, our business plan, and to satisfy our business plan on behalf of the taxpayers. 2, is it just another option? Now I know we all may have an opinion on any option. Bill might have one opinion, Dave might have another. And by the way, Dave, I'm very impressed. I never knew you were that into hockey. And of course, had that much knowledge about this particular league, but good on you for doing your homework. But having said that, you know, do we get in the middle of those options being available to those folks? And then thirdly, do we go as far as actually putting a policy in place to start screening a lot of the folks that that are utilizing our facilities? So those 3 points I bring up deliberately, because it doesn't just attach itself to this recommendation. It may attach itself to future recommendations that might come before this or future councils with respect to anyone that's looking at utilizing our facilities. So if that's the case, folks, then don't just sit there or stand up and make a point and sit back down again. Okay? If that's your point, then take it to the next step. 1, business plan. Do you support Harry's recommendation as per our business plan? 2, is this an option that you want to get involved in? If it is, then get involved. And 3, if there's a point that you want to bring up a policy change and present that to staff, because in all fairness to them, he's just doing his job. Okay, in fairness to him and staff, then bring up new policies so they can abide by it and bring forward recommendations to council that are according to that policy. Okay? So with that said, any further comments or questions? Councillor Elliott.
I know I don't look like it, but back in the day.
Back in the day.
I played AAA to St. Catharines, coach for 10 years. So, yeah, hockey's hockey. Hockey is life to me. There's nothing else. Same as you, Mr. Mayor. So you know, absolutely not a reflection on Harry. Absolutely not. We can rent ice. We can rent ice. I do have a major issue with the league, the way the league is structured. And that, to me, that's the biggest thing, is we don't know who they are. They can come out and they can say, you read their website, and it says, yeah, this is our mandate, to give the kids an opportunity to play and do this. Who are the guys behind it? What's the training that any of the coaches have? That's why Port Colborne Minor Hockey sends their coaches out, speak out clinics, training clinics. Anybody wants to be a ref, you go to a reffing clinic. You got to have a card. You got to be certified. You got to be everything. And I don't know anything about this league on what the certifications they hold, if any. And that's my only concern. We can get somebody in that's going to generate revenue. Harry, kudos to you. I get it. And again, I apologize if it seems like I'm coming after you. Absolutely not. It's the league and the structure of the league and the way that they are. They play outside the rules. They could have applied to Hockey Canada to be part of it, but they didn't. And they don't. The point I'm trying to make, Councillor Butters, is that Hockey Canada has rules and regulations so you know who you're dealing with, right? You go to Port Colborne Minor Hockey and all the coaches, they got a list of all the coaches and the certifications, and they keep track. The OHA and the OHF and Hockey Canada has all the credentials of all the training everybody's gone through. This league's got none. None. Who's your coach? Where'd he come from? What's his training? What's his background? You don't know. You've got rules and regulations. We put more rules and regulations into this municipality that everybody has to follow. And yet we're going to turn around and let a league come in that doesn't have any rules. As far as I can see, check out their website, GMHL. Go and see what they offer. Yeah, and it says they charge their players, and I know Councillor Steele said that's the way that it is now in a lot of places. I'm just wondering why one league plays outside the rules and everybody else plays within them. All of our kids do. Everybody in town plays under the banner of Hockey Canada and has to fulfill all the obligations to that league so you know what you're dealing with. That's my only concern.
Thank you, Councillor.
You want to pass it? That's good. And you know what? I'll call the question.
Yeah, thank you. Folks, can't call the question when you've already spoken, by the way. Folks, is there any more comments, questions? Well done, Harry. Anything else? You're good? Anything else? Members of staff, any further comments or questions? Dave, just the last point I want to make, and you're raising a lot of good points. There's no question. But I think what it boils down to is, and I think reading from some of the comments that Council made, is, let's face it, in Canada we have the gold-plated program. Hockey Canada has done just a yeoman's job in terms of, as you said, putting out and ensuring, looking after that those that are playing within their environment are well taken care of. There's no question, again, we have a gold-plated program. However, the bottom line is that, as Councillor Butters alluded to, it's all about choice. And, you know, the parent, the player just has another option. And if they want to take advantage of that option, then so be it. If they want to stay within the auspice of Canada Hockey, then they do. And I think that's what's going to be offered here, is just another choice. So, and I think Council's made that very clear. So with that, members, I will call the question. Actually, the clerk will call the question. It's going to be a recorded vote.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In accordance with the rules of the procedural bylaw, I will call the name of each councillor in alphabetical order. And upon hearing your name, please indicate either yes or no to the motion on the floor. Mayor Badaway?
Yes.
Councillor Bodnar?
Yes.
Councillor Butters?
Yes.
Councillor Dench?
Yes.
Councillor Desmarais?
Yes.
Councillor Doucette?
Yes.
Councillor Elliott?
No.
Councillor Kenny?
Yes.
Councillor Steele?
Yes.
That's 8 in support and 1 in opposition, and the motion carries.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. With that, we'll now move on to the second item, item 10. Councillor Danch.
Thank you. Correspondence from Tammy Corey Sorenzia, Tanning Tropics Limited, Portal Village Mall, reconstruction around the business area and request for compensation for loss of business. That the correspondence from Tammy Corey Sorenzia, Tanning Tropics Limited, Portal Village Mall, reconstruction around the business area and request for compensation for loss of business be received, and that no further action be taken, and that Tammy Corey Sorenzia be so advised.
Thank you, Councillor. Do I have a seconder to that, please? Councillor Kenny. Questions or comments? Councillor Danch.
And I apologize for not pulling this sooner. I just 2 points. Yes, construction's a pain in the butt, and the people on Kalali Street are this year's victim, and it's been going on. And I think the residents are more peeved than the businesses, because there aren't a lot of businesses on that street. But I got through it a few years ago, and I guess move along. One thing I did want to bring up, though, is in her letter to us, she states in it that the merchants, hold on there, folks, because we're just trying to cue it in here. I am aware that when construction was being done on Main Street, the businesses there were compensated for business loss. I believe the same consideration should happen with my business, and as I am a part of the community, it should receive fair treatment. I can say as a merchant on Main Street, Mr. Sinest did not cut me a check back, and so that's the wrong information, and that's really the only reason I wanted to bring this forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Danch.
That's where it came from, Frank.
Further questions or comments on this recommendation? With no further questions or comments, all those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. We'll now move on. We'll now move on to. Excuse me. Thank you, Bob. Members of Council, I now have a proclamation I'll be looking for a mover and seconder for. First off, it's only one tonight, Madam Clerk? Yes. You don't have 10 of them. Thank you. It's June 1st to June 30th, 2014. It's Seniors Month. Here we are again, once again, to recognize those important folks in our community. That whereas Seniors Month is an annual national-wide celebration, and whereas seniors have contributed and continue to contribute immensely to the life and vibrancy of this community. And whereas seniors continue to serve as leaders, mentors, volunteers, and important and active members of our community. And whereas their contributions, past and present, warrant appreciation and recognition, and their stories deserve to be told. And whereas the health and well-being of seniors in the interest of all and further adds to the health and well-being of our community. And whereas the knowledge and experience seniors pass on to all of us continues to benefit all of us. Now therefore, I, Mayor Vance M. Badaway, proclaim June 1st to June 30th, 2014 as Seniors Month in the City of Port Colborne, and encourage all citizens to recognize and celebrate the accomplishments of our seniors. I have a mover and seconder, please. Councillor Desmarais, Councillor Kenny, are there any questions or comments? The only comment that I want to make, and as I was reading this, it sort of resonated in my mind, is how much the seniors in the City of Port Colborne have been contributing as volunteers. We had a volunteer recognition dinner, Councillor Desmarais, about 3 weeks ago. And I'll tell you, we gave out 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50-year pins, and most of which went to seniors. And I'll tell you, it was just absolutely astounding how many folks were there to collect their pins. And the seniors that we have volunteering. Just yesterday at Arabella's, we had a whole slew of volunteers serving pie at the Historical Museum. But you see it almost every day, regardless of what corner of the city you go into, whether it be the senior center, whether it be some of the big events like Canal Days, how much they volunteer and how much they contribute to our community. So how apropos to have this recommendation before us today, and I'm sure will be passed unanimously, to recognize all those seniors throughout the City of Port Colborne, not only during the month of June, but all year round, but especially during the month of June. So with that, Councillor Desmarais.
If I may, Mr. Mayor, you'll see representatives from the Seniors Advisory Committee in Market Square every Friday for the month of June. And they'll be advising seniors who are walking through on what the city is doing for them and asking also what they need so we can bring that back to council. But there'll be various representatives from the committee there every Friday morning, so please stop and say hi.
Great, thank you, Councillor. And kudos to you as well, Councillor, and being part of the Senior Advisory Committee. And Councillor Doucette as well. Very involved. That was something that was an idea from a senior that brought it to me, and we got her going a couple of years back. But you two championing the cause this past term of council is very much appreciated. Well done to both of you and to the committee. Very, very, very well done. Very active committee, yes, and very vocal too, I might add. yeah. Which is their purpose. So with that, members, all those in favor? Opposed? That would be carried. Thank you. Are there any notices of motion, members of council? Notices of motion this evening. With none, I'll move on to the introduction of the bylaws. Madam Clerk? Oh, I'm sorry. Before you get up, Ashley. Councillor
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I forgot to announce something a little bit earlier. We kind of went by things a little quickly and it got by me, but I just wanted to let everyone know that this Saturday is our Safety Awareness Day put on by the Community Safety Committee at the Fire Hall on Mellenby. It starts at 10 o'clock, it runs till 1. It's aimed at elementary school children. We have all kinds of displays and, pardon me? Yes, free hot dogs. Are you coming? Okay, good.
Bob's there.
Yes.
Bob.
Lots of opportunity for the young ones to experience different safety awareness activities. There's an obstacle course put on by the fire department, bike rodeo put on by the community, and the Optimist Club are joining us this year, and they're going to be partnering with us to move forward with the bike rodeo. All kinds of opportunity for the kids to go out and have a good time. The Y is also going to be a partner with us now, so the committee is growing and so are the activities. So please do come out, completely free event. Kids will have a great time and there's even an opportunity to win a bike.
Great, thank you, Councillor, well done. Members, any further notices of motion? I'm giving you some latitude, guys. Councillor Elliott.
Point of clarification, did you say free hot dogs?
Free.
What time's that start?
Free.
What's
either two? When I get involved, it's free.
10 o'clock? It's at the fire hall, isn't it? Yeah?
Yes.
Okay.
So we got that clear, free hot dogs.
I want to go. 10 o'clock?
Chief?
Yeah, free hot dogs and also refreshments.
And refreshments.
Non-alcoholic.
Exactly.
Non-alcoholic. And for Bob's salad. Because Bob,
I'm a bit
strict rules, no hot dogs, Heil.
I am concerned about the mustard in his ear.
Well, just for those folks watching on COGECO, and I mentioned this last week on COGECO actually at the interview, Richard, you'll recall, because Bob is looking a bit shabby with the beard. He's starting to look like Willie from Duck Dynasty, and it's getting longer. But Bob, explanation, because usually he's so finely groomed, but he's letting it go.
Your Worship, and it's going to continue to grow. The Port Colborne Operating Society in February and March will be showing Fiddler on the Roof. Tryouts are in September, and I'm going to be trying out for one of those positions to be a Russian Jew. So it's going to be fun. So unfortunately, now my daughter's getting married in November. You can imagine what it's going to look like at the wedding. So
she must be impressed about that, eh?
Oh, already she's impressed. She's impressed already, Your Worship. So anyway, it'll be really nice when April rolls around and I can prune it. Thank you.
When you folks come into the next council meeting and you have a sign that says, you know, Bob, Robert, Willie, Heil, you'll know what that means. And now that the clerk's giving me that eye, because I appeared right off the agenda. We'll get back on to her. Sorry, Ashley. Madam Clerk, the introduction of the bylaws, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That the following bylaws be read 3 times and finally passed. Bylaw 60885414, being a bylaw to temporarily close a section of West Street to vehicular traffic July 1st, 2014 for the purposes of the Canada Day fireworks display. Bylaw 60895514, being a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw 11509781 as amended, respecting lands legally known as part of Lot 10, Concession 2, former Township of Humberston, now in the City of Port Colborne, Regional Municipality of Niagara, municipally known as 3682 Highway 3. Bylaw 60905614, being a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw 11509781 as amended, respecting lands legally known as part of Lot 17, Concession 2, former Township of Humberston, now in the City of Port Colborne, Regional Municipality of Niagara, municipally known as 1838 Highway 3. And finally, bylaw 60915714, being a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw 11509781 as amended, respecting lands legally known as lots 24 and 25, NP 788, former Township of Humberston, now in the City of Port Colborne, Regional Municipality of Niagara, municipally known as 287 Killaley Street East.
Well done. I always say to the clerks, they go through it so quickly, and I know how you feel. You have to take a drink of water first. Great job, Ash. Members of Council, mover and seconder for the bylaws, please. Councillor Butters, Councillor Kenny, or any comments or questions? Nothing further. Your pleasure. All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Madam Clerk, confirmatory bylaw, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, that the following bylaw be read a first, second, third time and finally passed. Bylaw 60925814, being a bylaw to adopt, ratify, and confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of the City of Port Colborne at its special and regular meetings of May 26, 2014.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Doucette, Councillor Desmarais. Questions or comments? What's that look for? All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Before we move on to a motion, I have Councillor Elliott waving his hand. Go ahead.
I forgot under councillors' items. Last Thursday was the first night of the Port Colborne Downtown Cruisers Association, and I will get beat up by a bunch of guys if I don't announce it. Every Thursday night, downtown, throughout Clarence Street, and hopefully beyond, a bunch of guys that love cars got together, made an association. Last Thursday, I think it was the only day that it didn't rain last week. The inaugural. We had the inaugural, yeah. We had about 55 cars come out. I think 40-something guys signed up for the Dura Cruise. Whoever lasts the longest, comes to the most, gets a prize at the end of the year. Mr. Hakeem was there. It was pretty busy. Streets were busy. The people driving up and down Clarence Street looking at the cars. I'm not kidding. The light turned red. There's like 15, 20 cars in line, and it's like, really? What's going on? It was really good to see. A lot of good vibes. Had great comments from all of the store owners, the car owners. Everybody's looking forward to it. Happens again this Thursday. I'm not sure what this Thursday night is. They have a theme night every Thursday. I don't know what this one is, but you got a hot rod, you're in town, shine it up, bring it out, come on and see us downtown, have a good time, maybe introduce yourself to some store owners, throw some money around, buy some stuff, and come out for a good night. Keep your fingers crossed for the sunshine.
Thank you, Councillor Elliott, and a great job by the BIA and those folks that, not the BIA.
Stand corrected.
Some members of the BIA.
Some members of the BIA went out on their own and they've created an association. They've actually registered it, and I believe it's registered as nonprofit. So it's them on their own. There are some familiar names in the association that have started it. Some guys that like cars and like a lot of cars and maybe have something to do with a big car show in town at some point in time. So yeah, it's well run. There's music. 91.7 was out last week to introduce it. So come on out, bring your hot rods, shine them up, and bring them downtown.
Thank you, Councillor Elliott, and great job by all of them. Now, before we move on, and the clerk gets very nasty with me because I'm not following the agenda tonight, I can't wait to see the minutes. It was straightforward, yeah. Before we move on, I do want to introduce a new member of our team who's been sitting here very patiently, and this individual is the new manager of Revenue and Taxation, and down on the first floor. So he is, I believe, the fourth male now on the first floor. At one time, Peter was the only male on the first floor. God bless you. And then, of course, Donnie came along, and then Curtis came along. And now Stephen came along, and Stephen again is going to be the manager of Revenue and Taxation. And Stephen, I just want to take this opportunity to welcome you to our team. The first floor welcomes you, I'm sure, with open arms. You had a great crew down there, as well as the second and third floors, and ultimately the entire operation throughout the community. And again, welcome to the team. You'll really enjoy it. Peter, you're not a Montreal fan, are you? Yeah. No? You're trading him, Peter? But no, in all seriousness, Stephen, welcome. It's great to have you aboard. So with that, members of council, I am going to ask for a motion to go into closed session. A, to deal with the minutes of the closed session portion of the April 14th, 2014 special council meeting, and as well, members of council, to deal with B, the confidential verbal report from the Chief Administrative Officer conveying legal advice from Sarah Premi, Solicitor, Sullivan Manny, LLP, respecting a proposed municipal bylaw matter pursuant to the Municipal Act 2001, subsection 2392F, advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communication necessary for that purpose. C, confidential planning and development report number 2014-35, concerning the potential disposition of city-owned land pursuant to the Municipal Act 2001, subsection 2392C, a proposed or pending acquisition of or disposition of land by the municipality or local board. And the addendum this evening to the in-camera meeting is confidential verbal report from myself concerning advocate environmental reports in respect of the community-based risk assessment pursuant to the Municipal Act 2001, subsection 2392E, litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board. Just on that, before I ask for the vote, Mr. Aquilina is fully aware, and members of council should be aware, that the CBRA process will resurface. I was in discussions with the MOE just the other day, and there is a push by myself to get them off their tufts, to get back to council with some recommendations with respect to the CBRA. It's been darn too long, or too darn long with respect to hearing anything about that process. This will resurrect some of that, but just in public forum, I can tell you that stay tuned. There will be some reports coming back by myself and or staff, and hopefully the MOE sooner rather than later. So with that, members of council, I'll look for a mover and seconder, please. Councillor Elliott, Councillor Doucette. Are there any further comments or questions? All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Have a wonderful week.